Oh yeah, it's 3 minutes. 3 minutes for the first part when you choose some solids. Ryan's gonna do a 1 minute transition, so 3 minutes, and then I'll go to 2 minutes or 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute, right? 1 minute after 3 minutes. Or
Is there a picture from here?
just take a picture.
Oh yeah. Shoot, I don't know.
It's okay. So 3 minutes when you do introductions. We'll just do 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, guys. I gotta run a bathroom.
No worries. 3 minutes, and then let me try some quickly. Test 1 2 test.
Oh yeah, it's going live.
Okay, cool. Um, check 1 2 check.
Okay, I got that.
Okay.
3 minutes first, it says, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Hey Ryan, how do you change the microphone on this? It's the microphone.
Go back.
It's on right. They're good.
So it's picking up sound somewhere. Which microphone are you wanting it to pick up?
your mic.
I'm going to call the candidates to the table when you're making it. It's 3 o'clock.
Okay.
That's it. All right, everybody. Time now is 3 o'clock. We can ask all candidates to come to the front, our chief candidates to sit and join their tables. All attendees that wish to view the forum live, please make your way over to the curtain portion of the gym. Fill up the bleachers. Don't be afraid to sit with people you normally wouldn't have. Pack in. We should be ready to go for a nice political discourse.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. Any people here? Yeah, let's start rounding people up to come like sit in the bleachers.
Just enough that.
You did?
Yeah. It's getting quieter. That's what it's just the nerves though. It is. They're sorting out some audio issues first. I think it's picking me up though when I speak there.
Is there anyone on? Not yet?
Two.
Two people.
3.
What are they hearing?
They can comment, so they haven't. Dave's going to test. I don't know where he went. I was pretty hands off with the stream side of this time. I don't love it. But normally I'm not moderating, so.
Good luck. I know you can do it.
Oh,
You got it. You got it, man. Remember, this is your coming up.
why did you do that?
3 years of 3 years are really it's going to be a Ryan Forum. We're getting 5 minutes from the chiefs.
call, please do make your way over. We're going to begin in just a moment, please. Before we begin here, I just do want to confirm the candidates are prepared to begin. Candidate Crowfoot, are you ready to proceed? Candidate Roy, are you ready to proceed? All right. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Siksika Nation Chief Candidate Forum. My name is Ryan Running Rabbit. I'm the moderator for today's Chief Candidate debate. You might know me from my time back at the 660 News. Politics is an interest of mine, an interest of our business. The forum is hosted by Sinakssin Communications. We're a small business from Siksika. We serve businesses and entities across the Blackfoot Confederacy and beyond. It's a mandate of ours to serve and give back to the communities, so events like this are not possible without the nation and other small business owners that we do our best work with. I want to thank everybody joining us in person. Your attendance is invaluable to events like this. Watching the live stream, I want to thank everybody that's joined us virtually from who knows where. I haven't looked at the list of who's here. So, from attendees from Siksika, the Blackfoot Confederacy, and who knows, maybe around the world. Before we begin, I do want to go through our house rules and expectations of today's forum. We're going to be following a strict decorum and precise timing of debate. Interruptions, disrespectful behavior, or speaking beyond allotted time will not be tolerated by anyone in attendance or on stage. Candidates must conduct themselves with respect, dignity, and professionalism at all times toward each other, the moderator, myself, staff, our live audience, and live stream viewers. Personal attacks and character-based attacks are not permitted in any way, shape, or form. This includes any reference to past conflict, rumors, family members, personal life, or anything unrelated to the topics of policy and leadership. If rules are violated, we as the hosts will issue warnings, cut microphones if we must, or pause the debate. If it's really required, we will remove an individual from the venue if necessary, as to maintain a respectful arena. Security personnel are on site to ensure a safe and respectful environment for all. I want to thank everyone here for helping us uphold the integrity and beauty of our democratic process. It's so integrally important. Now I want to go over our format overview. Today's forum will include opening statements from the candidates, 6 themed question rounds, candidate policy cross-examinations, as well as closing commitments. I want to reiterate this is important. Each candidate was given all the debate questions, the rules and formats of this earlier this week, ensuring everyone has equal participation and preparation. All candidates will receive time to answer every question for each themed round. We will rotate who answers first, following the order provided. Before that, I do have to go into a quick announcement of all of this. Candidate and former Chief Fred Rabbit Carrier cannot join us today. He issues a statement of his sincere apologies as he's attending to a medical emergency. He's injured his elbow and requires the doctor's attention. He thanks you all for his understanding. So our rotation will begin with Jack and then Sam. We'll continue to rotate for each new question. I will clearly indicate when your time begins and when your time ends for every segment. A true test of leadership is our ability to communicate clearly and concisely. We recognize that the timing may seem like not enough to get your point across, but we want to ensure a respectful democratic space. We believe this format is the best one for our chances to help you all succeed. We're going to begin with opening statements. Each of our candidates, just a quick second to sort out some technical issues for our live viewers. An echo. Don't want that. We want everybody who's listening live to be able to also hear everything that's being said.
People in the back talking. Okay, Tom, we need to be quiet for the mic.
One issue we're having with the live stream, we can please ask the audience to keep their conversations at a minimum volume or lower. If paused for another time, that would be fantastic. Silence and a quiet arena will ensure that we have the best responses from our candidates. Thank you.
I think we're good. I think there's a little bit of echo because of the gym as well.
All right, each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, share their vision for Siksika Nation without interruption. After all have spoken, there will be a short 1-minute moderator transition. I'm going to begin the questions that we have for you. So without any further delay, candidate Jack Boyle will have you issue your opening statement for 3 minutes. Once the timer has started, you may begin. Listen, if we can get the timer to begin. Yeah,
Testing.
you're good to go.
Okay, good today. One book is so I'm going to speak in English because we don't have much time and I'll be clear and concise like they want. So hopefully you all get the message. I'm going to speak to my brochure that hasn't changed since day one. This was put together probably 2 months ago. And I speak to Siksika values that I was raised with by my grandmother's 6 gates that we Nidad de Dios, these are the things we were all raised with. And I would try to hand out as much brochures as possible. I envision a self-sustaining, united, and proud Siksika nation where every member is heard, supported, and empowered to thrive in all areas of life, culturally, economically, and spiritually. I have 4 areas that I have on here that again are on my website, YouTube, TikTok, and other areas of social media. So please come take a look at it again. We'll give you in-depth explanation. I can only give you the highlights of what I'm going to talk about. 4, so nonetheless, this is in 4. Siksika, a political legal plan, Siksika economic development strategy, and a healing strategy. I'm going to open up with Siksika. That's our Blackfoot Siksika way of what we call what we use. I consulted with elders, former chiefs, and other elected officials from the past. What would we call our way of life if we were to put it into a government system? And Siksika is what we've come up so far. It's a political legal. One of the things I want to say is we have to remember we were never conquered. We never entered. It was a peace treaty, and Canada is trying to enforce themselves upon us. We were never conquered. We never entered into the Confederacy of Canada. We never agreed to be a part of Canada. The Indian Act was in place before we even signed the treaty. So how can we impose it on us? We shouldn't even be following. So why are we agreeing to their systems, their laws, their ways, their process, their forums that are foreign to us? We shouldn't even be involved in these discussions. We entered into a peace treaty. They follow the British common law, which is based on the principle of parliamentary supremacy. And parliamentary supremacy, if you look it up, is based on the king and queen believed that they were given the right by God to rule the people. That's not where we come from. That's what their systems are. We're using outside influence and following into the government's agenda. My plan includes the people and is based on Siksika Blackfoot laws and Siksika ways, given to us by the Creator, not by Napi ways. There needs to be a Siksika cultural match based on our way of life and our knowledge. This is just an extension of the white paper that happened. If you go look that up too, you'll see that happened in the late 60s, which was the government's plan to extinguish the That was 3 minutes.
That was 3 minutes. It goes by quick. Thank you.
Great.
Up next, we will move over to candidate Crowfoot. Desmond, if you can reset the timer for 3 minutes. All right, and begin. Crowfoot, when you're ready. Proceed.
Okay, Mr. Siksika. Hello, everybody. My name is Samuel Crowfoot, and I'm running for chief. I'm just finishing my second term as a counselor, and I'm very proud of the direction that Siksika is heading. As you know, I'm running for chief, and part of my platform, a big part of my platform, in fact, one of the main points of my platform is the expansion and strengthening of our treaty rights. We need to be a leader at the table. In the world today, where we're talking about separatism, talking about expanding provincial government via the Sovereignty Act, these are attacks to our treaty rights and to our way of life. We know that Alberta is expanding its powers without consultation. We know that Alberta is trying to expand its sovereignty. What does that mean for Siksika? We know that the treaties are the supreme law of the land, but we know that they are not being respected. The greatest challenges that we have coming to Siksika are going to be legal in nature. They're going to be legal in nature in terms of governance, they're going to be legal in terms of litigation, they're going to be legal in terms of what we're able to do for our people. We're hearing things in the community across the country, especially in Alberta, about privatization of healthcare. Well, what does that mean for our treaty rights, our treaty right to health? What are our leaders talking about that? That's what my leadership is going to be about strengthening our voices at these tables. I disagree that we should be involved in these conversations, because they do have the ability to affect us. And there's provisions in the Indian Act, Section 88, that allow for provincial laws to creep onto Siksika and give it the force of federal law. Look that up. Understand that that's part of what we have to do. I agree that we have to remind Alberta through negotiations, through diplomacy, but also through force, but also through litigation, that they need to respect us. They dumped 150 million liters of raw sewage into the Bow River. We're the only First Nation downstream from that. Not even a phone call from that government. We know that when we go to the hospitals, they discriminate against us because of our last names, because we're First Nations. We're fighting that battle. That's what this leadership is going to be about, making sure that our human rights, our inherent rights, and our treaty rights are respected, just as they have always meant to be. This is a big task. This is not easy, but I'm built for this. I understand firsthand the cost of what it means to be an effective chief. I've seen that in my youth. I've seen that on council, and I've learned that from other First Nation leaders across Canada. I look to them as model of guidance, but I also look to our elders and I look to our youth to tell us where to go. That's what my leadership is about, and that's what I intend to do. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for those introductions. We're going to move up next into the question period. I do want to clarify once more for our viewers on the live stream. There are two candidates in front of us. Regretfully, candidate Rabbit Carrier was not able to join us due to a medical emergency. He sends his apologies and regards. Now, for the question round, I will read the question and repeat the question to each candidate prior to your answer. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, followed by a 1 minute rebuttal. Strict timing will apply, just as we have with the introductions. I will guide us through. We have 6 rounds plus a few additional questions that have been handed in by participants and other nation members that have joined us here today. So question 1, we'll begin with candidate Crowfoot. The question is about strengthening safety and response on the East End. Community members on the East End have reported increasing incidents of suspicious activity and trespassing. What is your plan to strengthen safety, prevention, and response in that part of the nation? Now, if we can get the timer reset for 2 minutes here, we can proceed. And we will begin now.
Thank you for that question, Ryan. In reviewing these questions and kind of looking back at the progress we've done over the last six years or so since I've been on council, I can confidently say in area security, Siksika is a lot stronger than what it used to be. Before 6 years ago, we didn't have the security forces that we do now. Now you see them on the road, you see them everywhere. They're here today. They're at a lot of our functions for keeping us safe. We didn't have the peace officer program. And So, but now we have peace officers, and they're pulling people over on the reserve who choose to come through and break our laws and speed and put our people at risk. We have that. We have a police commission. We established that. Really about our police force. And that's one of our key priorities, is that recreation of our police force. Being able to police our people in accordance with their own ways, traditions, and customs. That's all part of it. Those are all things that are going forward. And I hope in the next administration, whoever's leading the charge, continue those incentives through to the next term, to the future. But we also have a prosecutor's office. The ability to prosecute our own laws in court on our own land. That never existed before. To be honest, that doesn't exist anywhere else in Alberta except Siksika. And in fact, the only other prosecutor's office that I know of in Canada is the Ganawagi Reserve outside of Montreal. We're one of the leaders in that area. But it's not just public safety or putting up signs or developing violence, all of which we're well underway doing that. Safety also includes things such as emergency management, being able to prepare for the floods and fires, and winter cold and blizzards, things that have come to us, and happened to us. Those are the things that we need to watch out for. But we also need to employ different methods as well, creating strategic partnerships with the RCMP and even the Alberta Sheriff's Department. We know that every fourth vehicle that comes through on the 901 is a commercial vehicle. So what about photo radars? What about way stations that prevent people from circumventing the number one, where the way stations are, and bringing their hazardous loads to our communities, past the homes, and our children? That's what this means. Thank you.
I will now repeat the question for candidate Royal. The question is about strengthening safety and response on the East End. Community members on the East End have reported increasing incident of suspicious activity and trespassing. What is your plan to strengthen safety, prevention, and response in that part of the nation? We could get the timer reset if Councillor is prepared.
Yes.
Let's begin.
Okay, thank you very much. I refer back to my brochure again under Siksika. We need to look at our ways of dealing with things under our Blackfoot ways and our Siksika knowledge and traditions and laws. That's going to be the basis for everything. We don't need not be ways bringing in their systems of how we administer our programs, services, laws, administration, and so on. And there's still issues happening. And even though there's things that are put in place now, I say, if you want to know how it's going to be in the future, look at the past. Are they working? Obviously, this is a concern for members. I've met with people from the East, people from the city, people, youth, elders. These are similar questions that they have. And so for me, I have some suggestions, but my objective is to go out there and meet with these members first. Tell me what the issues are. Tell me what the concerns are. What's actually happening? Where is it happening? When is it happening? What are we doing about it? Yes, there's services out there, but there's a lack of it. We also experience this on the other side of the reserve. So I don't know, we need more resources. But I would evaluate it, monitor it, get input and feedback, and develop a plan or a strategy to implement it. There's a lack of support and infrastructure on the east side. I would throw a satellite office here, and not only here, but in Calgary and other areas. For not only members, but elders, disability, and all people for safety, in this case, safety and security purposes.
We can reset the timer, Desmond, to 1 minute, and we'll move back to candidate Crowfoot for a 1 minute rebuttal or clarification. Please begin.
Okay, thank you. We do know what's going on. We do know that we have an issue with poachers coming onto the reserve. We know we have an issue with poachers coming onto the reserve. We know we have an issue with people just walking into our reserve without any respect for our laws, and they feel like they can take videos of us and bear us online. Those are all threats to our security. And that's part of it. We're doing things. We already have things in place that are combating that. But we also know that there's other threats to public safety. It's not safe to go door to door sometimes. I've seen things on Facebook, some of our fellow candidates running for leadership are not, it's not safe that we go door to door. Well, we developed a lot of animal officers training. We've broken ground on an animal services building. That infrastructure to uphold those bylaws, which we've had on the books since the 80s, are now being put in place so we can finally enforce them. Thank you.
Timer is reset. Let's begin.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, all I gotta say is, I love my dog. but the dogs are getting more protection than we are. And don't get me wrong, I love res dogs too. I grew up here on res. I think we need to stop this paternalistic approach and go back to the people and ask them, what are they wanting? What are they needing? Where's the gap in these services? Because obviously it's an issue. When I'm out there and I'm talking to people and I meet with these people, they're saying this is still happening. And it's happening in all the communities, not just the east side, even some of our members. And in our traditional ways, there's ways to deal with these types of people. And we have our laws and our knowledge on how we're going to deal with these drug dealers, not just off the reserve. But again, I revert back to, this paternalistic approach is, I know what's good for you. Don't worry, we got your back. Oh yeah, I'm following this process. Oh yeah, we're doing something. Well, meet with the people and ask them. They're all in here. Ask them what they think. And that hasn't happened. I haven't seen that in the last 6 years. My goal is to do that.
Thank you to the candidates. Desmond, if I can get you to reset the timer to 2 minutes as we can move into the second question. The second question, Jack, you will lead us off. The question is about protecting cultural sites, stories, and identity. How will you protect Siksika's cultural sites, stories, and identity as our nation continues to grow? If we can get the timer started, let's go.
Okay, well, all I gotta say here is I proved it. This is not just in theory, I've actually proved it. I went out, we took a referendum, we asked the people about protecting one of our cultural sites, the Blackfoot Treaty area, Treaty number 7, Blackfoot Crossing. I worked with a number of elders, and we went to the people, and we asked, what should we do? We went to a vote, people got their input, and they verified it by voting in favor. So I proved it, I have a track record on this. It's not just a theory. You can go look at Blackfoot Crossing, which is still there. And I brought it to the people, brought it back, and you can see it now. We have brought home thousands of artifacts. We're protecting our language. There was language classes. I met with elders. I met with community members, off reserve, studied all of what people are doing around the world in other countries, and brought it back to Yale. And they have meaningful, input and feedback when it comes to how we preserve these things and how we care for them. In our ceremonies and our songs, we didn't just have to have a referendum to protect all of that for bringing home things. It was to educate people. It was to make sure that we don't forget about the treaty. It was to make sure that not Pequays don't take over. It's to, again, show our sovereignty, to show that we were here before them. We're not going to follow your system. Who made you boss? We're going to follow our way, the Siksika way, our laws, our knowledge, our history, our way of life, our ceremonies, our songs. And that's what I'm not going to talk about it. Go back and look at my record. I'm not just going to talk about it. You go back and you check, go visit it. We won numerous awards there. I won an award there for raising millions of dollars. And I can continue to do that, but I need your support moving forward. If this is the direction we want to go, and we want to ensure that there's actual participation from the community, then just go look at Blackfoot Crossing.
All right, I'll repeat the question for candidate Crowfoot. The question is about protecting cultural sites, stories, and identity. How will you protect Siksika's cultural sites, stories, and identity as our nation continues to grow? If we can get the timer started, here we go.
Thank you for the question. The question is how will we protect them? We have to remember that Siksika cultural sites are not only on reserve, but they are off reserve. It's outside of jurisdiction sometimes, and that presents a challenge with us. Being able to sit with Alberta when they do these huge projects that have potential to wreck our cultural sites is extremely alarming. And once it's gone, it's gone. So we have to look at our cultural sites everywhere within our statutory territory, not just within the boundaries of the reserve. But if we are going to start with our own backyard, there are things that we're doing right now. Land use designations are being put in place. Land use plans are being put in place. Where we can designate safety sites on reserve, but we can also lobby to have those safety sites protected off reserve. Siksika is bigger than just its external boundaries. It's the entire land in this area that is our responsibility to take care of. We're developing land use plans, like I said, but we're also protecting our identity. Our culture is not only in the past, but it's also moving forward. We've taken steps to protect and treat our logo, our coat of arms, to protect against unauthorized use. That is part of our identity and the image we put forward to the people. We also have, when it talks about cultural protection, we're also talking about repatriation efforts. We know that many of our historical artifacts are spread all across the globe. Being able to go and get those, and we have a lot of progress in the area. Many of the people who made that possible are here today, and I thank you for their sacrifice. We have a good system, a good history of cooperation in bringing back our culture back to Siksika. And in doing that is very important. We also did talk about an archival department where we can collect and have all our history that is readily available, where we don't have to recreate the wheel every time a major case comes forward, where we have to present evidence. A place we can go and have our elders sit and talk. One of the best things that we can do is hold events where we can share those stories. I intend to do that in the future. Thank you.
President, if we can have the time changed to 1 minute for follow-up and rebuttals. We'll move back over to candidate Royal. Please begin.
Yeah, again, I'm going to revert back to our ways, our knowledge, our history, our language, our ceremonies, our stories. I can point in any direction, and we have stories and songs and history related to those areas. A lot of you know about them. We need to protect those areas. What I'm saying is I have a proven track record where we've done it in the past at Blackfoot Crossing. So I know the system, I know how it works. It's a proven record. We went out to the people. No one can argue that. People voted in favor. And the only way that they voted in favor was for me going out to them. Not again me saying, oh, I know it's best for you, I know what's gonna happen. No, don't worry, we got your back. Oh yeah, we're gonna go do this. No, I don't think that way. What I think is let's go ask the people. They might know things that I don't know. 3 heads are better than 1. All of you have knowledge that I don't have. I'm not an expert in everything, so I need your help. One way to really do that is to not just behind doors making decisions without their input.
We can have the timer reset. Candidate Crowfoot, you may begin.
A big part, like I said, just my last few comments there, a big part of the way our history is talking for stories. Being able to come to these events, being able to sit with the elders, being able to hear their stories, being able to record them and preserve them is key to our survival. That's part of it. Like I said, a lot of our cultural items and sites are off reserve. What are we doing to help gain control of those sites that are off reserve, that are outside our control? We've talked about developing additional reserve policy. Let's come forward. It's talked about in an interim report. We've received consultation on that. We're in the process of developing that process of developing how to go about that land acquisition. So we can purchase things that are culturally significant, economically strategic, and things that will help us move forward. That is all part of reflecting our history, and it involves your input and your direction on a lot of these key issues. But we have a lot of these key things in place, and we have a lot of momentum going. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was question number 2. If we can have the timer reset to 2 minutes. Thank you, Desmond. Question number 3. We're going to begin with candidate Crowfoot. The question is about ensuring clear communication from Chief and Council. How will you ensure decisions made at the Chief and Council table are shared clearly and consistently with the nation? You may begin.
Thank you. There's a lot of things we got right this last term. The last 2 terms. I would say that first term we did over 30 meetings with membership on 1910 and other issues that came up. We've been out there, we've been talking about that communication, and to be honest, there's a lot of things we could have done better. We could have done a lot of more meetings with the elders. It wasn't necessarily safe during COVID, but COVID has passed us, and we can implement those strategies moving today. We can do a lot more with our HCDP, increase our communications department, increasing the resources that we have that get that message out to people. The HCDP should have a monthly letter from the chief every month on the status of the nation. Every year, just like we see in the States, State of the Union, or here in Canada, the speech from the throne. Similar statements that need to go out to the people in both English and Blackfoot. But making sure that we're not only communicating via online and socially and having open band meetings, but also making sure that the leadership comes to your homes and sits with you. I've sat with many of you over the years, and we've talked about some of the things that we're doing, and I've received your input in a very intimate setting. And that's been so important. We used to visit each other back in the day. We used to be together back in the day. And because we're going apart from each other because of communication, because of our smartphones, because of different silos that go on. We need to break that down. We need to foster a greater sense of community. We're not hiding anything. The audits are out, we've had treasury reporting go out to the nation for at least 4 times this term. We've been able to talk about a lot of good things, but it's not enough. People should not be asking what's going on. They should be sick of hearing from leadership about what's going on. That's going to be a change. Monthly meetings with the elders. I've talked to both sides. Monthly meetings with our students at the college there. It's all part of it moving forward. Thank you.
Timer has been pre-sent. Candidate Roy, you may begin.
Thank you. Again, I don't think this is hard. I think this is easy. Bringing everybody together isn't hard. And I'm willing to get out there and meet with all of you and answer any questions up front. You can contact me. I've had the same phone number for 26 years. Everybody knows my number. You know, what I would do is I would meet with the people right away, see what's working, see what isn't, see where there's a lag, see where there's a gap, see what's good, what's bad, and where we need to repair. Then I look at what we're currently doing now, and what the needs are, where we're at, where's that gap, and how can we fill that gap through various communication methods. You know, because obviously there's some things happening, but it's not enough. The biggest things that I heard out there in meeting with people is there's no communication, no transparency, no accountability. People don't feel a part of everything. And I would make sure that we get out there and I do that. That's my commitment to you. And with doing that, you know, maybe there is some good things happening, you know, but people don't know about it or they don't feel a part of it. You know, so I would assess the situation, look at what the needs and requirements are, look at the gap that needs to be filled, and then develop a strategy to fill those gaps with all of your input, not just from me again. I would ask the people, other things we can probably look at, what we used to do, open back meetings. We don't have them anymore. Maybe we did having elders possibly sit in our council meetings so they can inform the elders. So they can sit in those things. You know, going back to our traditional ways, it's a little suwazi. It's a little suwazi of home things. It's very suwada. Not in our ways explaining, in our language explaining, our language is powerful, using it to explain to the old people on what's happening. And then asking the communities to have community events where we can not just talk, but give them information. And social media, of course, which is why we're here today.
We will now move on to clarifications and rebuttals. We'll move back to candidate Crowfoot. You may begin.
Thank you. I think we're saying a lot of the same things, bringing that open communication back to the people. You've heard me say that in a few places here throughout the campaign trail. Before the Chief Council moved to the strategic planning session to start the term, what they do every term, having an open mandate to talk about their priorities, to talk about the nation, and the things that the community wants this leadership to focus on is going to be very important. Once we have that information guiding that strategic plan will then be released in a form that is acceptable for public consumption, acceptable for people to see what we're moving on, and then to have regular reports giving back to the community on how we're doing, on the things that we said that we do, are we actually doing? And we've done that in some respects. We've passed a series of laws throughout the last 2 terms. For each and every law that has come forward, there's been public comment. And we've received comment from a lot of concerned nation members about the different bylaws that we have. And we've taken those changes, those comments, those edits, and those questions, and we've incorporated that into law. And I think
I'm going to have to cut you off there. Time is up. We will now return to candidate Roy. You may begin.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to go back to our Siksika ways. We've done things before not being ways got here. It's equals and it's maybe supposed to this is not weak yet, it's equals and those slides of see once you make this is banding yet, you don't know what you need to go to make what you want to give to make this go back to what you store take we makes. Maar dat week, als je dat week, zo moet je dat week, maar het is niet meer, en niet ook niet hier. Is zo, dat staat voor, dat je deze niet waar, dat week, dat moet je zo waar. We have to go back to our traditional ways. Obviously, before social media, before print methods, we told stories. That's how we passed down our oral traditions. We visited each other. We had clans. We had communities that we would go to. We need to go back to those. We need to get the people's input. Not everybody goes to these meetings. Not everybody is on social media. Not everybody's, getting on
And
it.
that's what you're off there. We're there, 1 minute time limit. We'll now move into the fourth question. We can put 2 minutes. Fantastic. The order for question number 4, Councillor Royal will begin. Candidate Royal, my apologies. This question is about building Siksika's economy while protecting sovereignty. What is your plan for building Siksika's economy through job creation, partnerships in land use and revenue generation while protecting our long-term sovereignty? You may begin.
Thank you. And I'm again going to go to my platform and my brochure that outlines everything that I talked about. In a quick statement on there, it says that we need to develop a Siksika sovereignty framework that upholds our political, treaty, inherent constitutional rights, and achieves economic self-sufficiency through economic development. With that, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance, not only investing in money. We're not all about self promote. There's people that have needs out there. We need to invest in our people, in our community, in our elders, and in our youth, and people that need help. And it's a critical balance that we need to have without compromising the long-term strategy of becoming economically self-sufficient. We can do it. We need all of your help to do it. What's the needs? What's the requirements? What can we invest? How can we move forward? You can't have true sovereignty unless you have economic self-sufficiency. They go hand in hand. I would look at the trust accounts. How can we put that money to work for us? I don't even know what's going on with it. Maybe there's some good things going on. I don't know. But I went to a meeting and we tried to ask different questions, and the guy said, go talk to Chief of Council. Well, we didn't have a chance to ask at that time. I would get the people working. There's best practice examples out there. One is the Great Depression, where we needed infrastructure, or they needed infrastructure in America. So they needed houses, they needed schools, they needed roads, they needed pipes and everything, water. So they put their people to work building these things. The students, we could do that with. Our contractors, we could do that. Give them an economy. We need an economic base like other entities or nations. And hiring our people, especially our students that are getting out of school and our members, they need something to look forward to. And members should be given priority on these things, not nation members. They're getting rich instead of us.
We'll now repeat the question for candidate Crowfoot. The question is about building Siksika's economy while protecting sovereignty. What is your plan for building Siksika's economy through job creation, partnerships, land use, and revenue generation while protecting our long-term sovereignty? You may begin.
Thank you. In this question, strengthening our sovereignty comes first. Anything we do as a nation must be conscious of what our true rights and making them stronger. It's not just about dollars. It's about creating a future where our children and grandchildren have opportunities to come here at home and be able to sustain a life that they wish to live. That's the challenge we have moving forward. And part of that challenge, I've talked to a lot of our small business owners here on Missouri, is not having an environment where small businesses can succeed. There's no regulation on Missouri when it comes to having a small business business model around Missouri. How can we make an environment where we have to have a small business association or a small business code, things like that will allow for greater investment to come to the nations and give our people an opportunity to stand on. We know that the laws of Alberta sometimes commit to system, and that's a problem. So part of that development of our economy is making sure we have those laws in place that allow for the government to, allow for the nation to develop that. We need to look back at some of the things that we had in the past, expanding our agriculture. I've heard a lot about bringing back the buffalo, what that means. Bringing back the buffalo is very important. So being able to have these things in place, being able to have an environment where we're not able to be in place, but they're able to survive long term is a key part of my platform. And those are things that we've seen in other parts of the country that we're learning, and we can bring that back here and make it work for Siksika. After we've been able to bring that to the people to hear what they have to say. Part of building our economy is building our workforce, strengthening career pipelines, strengthening programs such as SETS. We know that there's a $2 billion cut to the First Nations in Canada, and that's going to affect us. We have real programs right now that might not make it past the fiscal year, March 31st, 2026, because of those cuts. How can we look to shore up those buildings? How can we look at those programs? How can we look to shore up our workforces so they can work wherever they want to work? Not just on Siksika, but anywhere in the world. Investing in our youth and our workforce is key to having a strong economy.
Our time is well run. Would you move back to 1 minute, okay? Thank you very much. We will return to candidate Royal for rebuttals and clarifications. You may begin.
Thank you. There's a system I took when I was in university. It's called behavior description. And what the philosophy behind this whole course that I took was past behaviors are best predictor for future behavior. If you want to know how someone's going to behave in the past, that's how they're going to behave in the future. You know, we need to stop this alternative approach. I know it's good for you. I know money. I know it's going to work for you. I know it's going to happen. I am not going to do that. I'm going to come to you, and again, based on Siksika's plan, we're going to put it together. I'm going to bring it to a referendum and make sure that all of you are involved and all of you are included, and make sure that all of you have a say on what's going on, right? From how we're governed, how our GP manages to invest from the programs, the services, for everybody. So this can't happen. That I know it's good for you up close.
Thank you so much. We have a time reset. We'll return back to candidate Crowfoot for a rebuttal and clarification. You may begin.
Part of strengthening our economy is also strengthening those political and economic relationships with people outside of Missouri. Making sure that we are properly represented at some of these governing tables. Making sure that when companies come onto the reserve, that they're following the proper protocol and consulting with us. And making sure that they're being respectful of our race, our people, and our values. One of the most powerful things that we can do is to go acquire land. Never in the history of our nation have we been able to expand the borders of Siksika. When we have provisions now in the Passaic Dam, in the Castle Mountain, in the Lake Pizza Union, that allow us to go and expand land and purchase land. That's part of it. That's part of increasing our land base, and making sure that our investments are on track. We've already seen part of the economic value with increase in our distributions and the investments that are performing well in the market. Being able to leverage that power that we have with Alberta is going to be key to that long-term survival.
Thank you. We'll move into question 5. If we can get 2 minutes back on the clock. The order for question number 5, candidate Crowfoot will begin, candidate Royal to follow. The question is about top priorities when negotiating with Alberta or Canada. What are your top priorities when sitting across the table with Alberta or Canada? You may begin.
First and foremost, Alberta is one of the major forces that are seeking to limit, inhabit, and even extinguish our treaty rights. Make no mistake about that. So anything we do must be from a position of strength and a position of knowing the law and what legs we have to stand on. We've seen Alberta try to expand its jurisdiction with its sovereignty, trying to flex its muscle on the national scale by talking and showing the idea of separatism, with no respect for the treaties. We've seen Alberta put projects in place and major development environmental projects in place without proper consultation. We were told at the water table earlier in the term about our input was not important enough in forming the Ghost River Dam Reservoir. We have that in the record. So when we negotiate with Alberta, when we litigate against Alberta, it needs to be from a position of strength and making sure that we're able to handle what's going on. And it's not just with respect to treaty rights, it also has to do with our human rights. Alberta has taken many steps to curtail our individual civil liberties. They're looking to ban books and curtail curriculums. They're reducing and stripping away the rights of trans people within the province. They're looking to do things that take away from government transparency, making the disclosure of government facts and spending harder to obtain. We need to make sure that we're one of the loudest voices in Alberta because we're one of the strongest voices in Alberta. And Alberta needs to be reminded of that. So this next chief has to be able to stand up to Danielle Smith in her face and let her know what she's doing and what the Supreme Law of the land is. We have been here first, we will be here last. We have last to stay coming. We were here before Alberta, we will always be here. Thank you.
And that phrase the question to candidate Royal. The question is about top priorities when negotiating with Alberta or Canada. What are your top priorities when sitting across the table with Alberta or Canada? You may begin.
Once again, it goes back to Siksika's demand. What are our Blackfoot ways? What are our Siksika ways? Well, how did we govern ourselves? How did we administer ourselves? Based on our knowledge, history, traditions, culture. We were here thousands of years before Napi ways. There's a DNA that was proven here on Alpha Biolabs that was in the front page of the Great Falls Tribune, saying we have the oldest DNA in North America. It's at 17,500 years old. We need to go back to that and say, what are you guys doing here? We were here long before the doctrine of discovery was removed. They can't argue that they were here, they found us. We were already here, we found them. We need to come from that angle. And that angle is going to come from the people. It's not going to come from just myself. And again, that's what we're going to vote on. And we need to start asserting that position, not following their rules, their legislation, their laws, their process, their forms on how they argue. We need our own, we have our own. We can follow that. We never joined Confederacy. And the Indian Act wasn't even there or was there already there. These are their systems. We need to be careful that we don't fall into this. For youth and off reserve, we need to ensure people have access to quality schooling. If we do talk to them, we need to ensure that we invest in skills and training for off youth and off reserve. We need to include the youth in their voices. Again, hearing what they need, not just me saying, I know what's good for you, this is what we're going to do. We need you to come out and tell us what to do. And economic-wise and employment-wise, we need to create jobs, business opportunities. How is Alberta doing that? Some of us and some of you live off the reserve, so they're paying taxes, they're contributing to the economy. What benefit are we getting out of it? We're also contributing to their economy. Look at Strathmore. We're the biggest customer there. So I would take some of those scientific economic data and say, if you want to argue, we'll argue this way. But in the first place, we were here first. This is how we do things. Yes, this is how
We're now going to move into the follow-up clarification portion of the question, returning back to candidate Crowfoot. You may begin.
I think the question was, what are the top priorities we're sitting across the table with Alberta and Canada? And so I want to just make sure the question that we're answering. Like I said, the biggest thing is making sure our treaty rights are respected. Listening to candidate Royal here, he's talking about a lot of good things. He's talking about governing ourselves, self-government, being able to break away from things like that. Everything that we're talking about, sovereignty. If you Google the word sovereignty, Google it, look at it. Look what's in that definition. We're saying the same thing that's being said differently. Talking about increasing our sovereignty framework is the same thing as nation building. That's what we're doing. When we sit with Alberta, and that's the question we need to answer here. We're coming as a nation to nation with Alberta and the government of Canada. We have to remind them of who we are as a nation. The world superpower came to us this time of the treaty. We did not go to them. So we have to remind them of that. When we're having these discussions here with Alberta, we have to remind them of our power and our strength.
We'll now return to candidate Royal for follow-up rebuttal. You may begin.
Again, I'm going back to Siksika's demand. And that's, if you understand Blackfoot, that means how we do things in our ways, in our knowledge, in our ceremonies, on how we've survived since time immemorial. We need to go back to that. Call it what you want, but it's Siksika's demand. You need to go back to that, and right from square one, start using our terminology, not your terminology. I don't care if it's Constitution, self-government, that's their terms. I'm saying we're going back to our terms. We have to break it right down and start from there. And they're all priorities. Of course, if we get an argument and if we get an audience with them, we're going to argue those things. But in the meantime, we need to build a strategy based on how we're going to govern, lead, manage all of our everything under Siksika's demand. So I'm going to take it out again to the people, and you're going to tell me what Siksika's demand is all about.
Moving on to question 6. The order for question 6 will begin with candidate Royal, followed by candidate Crowfoot. The question is about bringing core services to the East End. What is your plan for bringing core services such as health, recreation, and administration to the East End? You may begin.
Okay, I want to start by saying, it's not only the East End. This is unilaterally across the board in all ends. It's all Siksika, on and off reserve. Some people, they have to move away because there's not enough services here. There's not enough infrastructure. There's not enough schools, hospitals, programs, services, jobs, and on and on and on. So we have to support them and support people on the reserve, whether it's the East or the West or off the reserve. One of the things that I look at as it pertains to health, recreation administrations, we're still leading in the 8 times worse than national averages when you look at the quality of life indicators. So we're worse off 8 times worse than Canadians. When you look at the detriments to health, again, we're worse off. Death rates, mortality rates, disease, unemployment, and on and on. Again, what I would do is I would go back to the people and assess the situation. What's going on? What's the needs? What's the requirements? And what's the demand for these services? And what's the state? And evaluate it, assess it, research it. And then I would take it back and I would look at, okay, what's currently happening with how we're trying to address it? Maybe there's a gap again there. What's that gap? How come we're not meeting all of those needs? And then identify what programs, what resources are available, not only on the reserve, but other partnerships, which could be any entity, any other government, or anything else. And then entering into a plan that we can all agree on. Because again, I don't live in the East. I don't know what it is. We should have a recreation center here. We're in the gym. This is for the kids. It's nice, but we should have a one-stop shop where people can go and say, that don't have the money to go to town if they need elder services, youth services, employment services, social, family services. We need to set up here because a lot of our people are from the East. I work in the East and I know. So I would also do that. I would ask the people and start setting up here to give them
I have to
an
check you on there. We're out of time. Could be a question. Candidate Crowfoot. The question is about bringing core services to the East End. What is your plan for bringing core services such as health, recreation, and administration to the East End? You may begin.
I think bringing services into the community is going to be one of the greatest things that we can do that look to improve the quality of life for our people. We used to have a hospital here on Siksika. My father was born, and many of you were born, and we paid for that hospital with our own money. And it was illegally and wrongfully taken away from us. Part of my leadership is looking at how we can get that hospital back. We've already started that, and that decision's already come up with respect to our Alberta Human Rights against Strathmore Hospital. Removing ourselves from that racist environment and bringing our care home to our nation is going to be huge. We know that we need dialysis machines, and getting dialysis on reserve is hard. So we need to look at innovative solutions, such as maybe a mobile dialysis unit and bringing services like that to the people. Those are big parts of those are some of the things that I've talked about for sure throughout my entire time on council and throughout this entire campaign. Is bringing those services back onto the nation, an urgent care center, and eventually down the road things like a birthing center where we can practice our traditional ways of life to run our bones on this earth start right now. But that's only part of the question. A lot of this question, I don't disagree with this question about what we do to bring to the East End. I know in talking with you and speaking with you that people here on the East Side feel left out. They feel like there's not enough here. They feel like all the infrastructure is put in Galician area. And that's a problem. Even travel to that distance between Cluny and Galicia for many is an insurmountable obstacle. So that's why you see the developments going on. That's why we brought the public services building here to this side of the reserve. Only a stone's throw from here. That's why we have the community centers going up. Where Crowfoot School used to be. We're already investing in that type of stuff. And it's not just that though. We know that there's issues to bring capital projects, but we also know that we have to clean up the dirty stuff. We know there are sewer systems and infrastructure underneath the ground involved. We need to know that our communications, our cell phone towers. I was talking with a nation member not too long ago, I couldn't talk to her because the cell phone towers were on. That's part of what we need.
You're going to have to put you on there. We're following the ballot portion of the question. Coming back to candidate Royal. You may begin.
Thank you. We have a lot of trust money out there, and a lot of people paid for that, and a lot of elders that aren't here. They're not going to enjoy those services that are being proposed. Again, I look at what's happening right now. It's fine and nice, to have plans, but let's see them in action. Again, I can prove to you through Black Crossing that was a plan that went through all of the processes that I keep referring back to. We're going to meet with the people, we're going to find out their needs and requirements, we're going to get their input and feedback. They're the experts, they live down here. I don't live down here. So I'm going to go to them or go to you and say, well, how can I help you? What's working? What's not working? And how can we support what's going on here? And then take it back and try and see where we can fill in those gaps. There's money there, and I don't know why it hasn't happened already, but I think we need to support what's going on down here through some of that trust money.
We can reset our timer. We'll come back to candidate Crowfoot. The rebuttal and follow. You may begin.
It is happening. It has happened. We have we have the peace officers now on the east end. We've broken ground on our animal services building now on the east end. We've increased the animal training of our animal control officers, and their home is going to be on the east end. Things are going to get better here on the east end. They already have in a lot of ways. We see development going down at Blackfoot Crossing. We see those developments coming back. There's plans with in anticipation of the 150th anniversary of the Sacramento Training Center, which will happen in September 2027. There's a lot of funding opportunities there, but there is development. There is progress. Don't take my word for it. Drive around. You see it. You see it and you know it. The signs are up. No trespassing. That brings safety to the nation. The prosecutor position is up. That helps us uphold our laws in court. Things are getting better. Things are going to continue to get better. I have sat with you. I have talked with you in your life. I have sat with you and talked with community centers. Most of my
have to cut you off there. We've got your time. For their participation, we completed the initial question period that we prepared for you. We're going to move into the next section of our, I guess it is a debate at this point. Into the debate, the policy cross-examination round. Prior to that, I'm going to let you know, because of the timing and one of our candidates not being able to join us, we are adding 2 questions. You may ask 2 or 3 questions total, policy-focused questions to each other. That's an addition of 2 questions over what we told you already. That is the change. Give you a second to think about that. I'm going to do a quick thank you to our staff, everybody that helped make this possible. I want to thank Elroy Glass, the caterer, for all of the time, everything we needed food. Moving over to our IT, AV, we want to thank David Pantherbone, Desmond Slag, JC Solway, Johnny Scalplock, Riley Gooding, Tammy and Magic Scalplock, Lindsay Manyhead Security, the Grow Prize Donation from Ariel Water Chief, Eddie Wolfshot, Nikki Yellow Woman, and Lisa Bixson. We really do want to thank all of you for making this possible, for putting the community event together with us. This isn't easy to figure out. That's our little soapbox of this whole thing. We're hoping to modernize politics in Siksika and give us a new look. You know, we deserve to evolve. So, for the policy-focused questions portion of this, each candidate will ask 3 policy-focused questions to another candidate. These questions must focus on governance, policies, proposed plans, leadership principles, economic developments, or community priorities. What is not permitted in these questions is personal accusations, character attacks, rumors or past conflicts, issues unrelated to leadership or policy. The exchanges for these followings will be 30 seconds each to ask the question. You will each receive 2 minutes to answer with a 30-second rebuttal. Each of our candidates will now ask 3 questions total. There are only 2 of you here, so the questions will be directed at each other. Are we ready to begin? Who is going first, following the order of where we were last? Sam will lead off this portion of asking the first question.
Okay.
30 seconds now, sorry. Desmond, let's restart that. In all sake of fairness, you may begin.
We're always asking, we always hear about Daniel's talking about separation and how she's talking about how she's going to use Alberta money to potentially fund pipelines through Alberta, potentially through black land through Siksika, that potentially as a threat. What is your plan to address this and how?
Desmond, if we can put 2 minutes up on the board now. Candidate, go ahead, you may begin.
Okay, first of all, Daniel Smith has no authority on Siksika lands or Siksika territory. So what we have to do is we have to go back and prove that under their terms if we want. Again, it's their systems, their laws, their legislation, their understanding, these foreign concepts that they use that we're being dragged into. My position is going to be that we're going to come from a Siksika perspective, Siksika. Организация число они царь конституции We're going to go back to our ways and say, this is who we are. We were here again 18,000 years before. We never entered into Confederacy. We didn't agree to be a part of Canada. The treaty was a peace treaty. We were never conquered. You know, and we have this. This is a long-term plan. It's not a short-term plan. And if we have to fight it out in the courts, and what I would recommend is going to international court, then we go there. But we need to start that process by going out and telling people, how did we do things? How did we manage ourselves? How did we govern ourselves? How did we lead ourselves? That has to be the basis of our argument. Danielle Smith is just a player in a game that she's not even a party to. You know, we should even be listening to her. You know, so when she starts this rhetoric of separatism, whatever, you know, I have a funny thing here that was, again, an extension of the white papers. It's from the 60s. It's Trudeau telling this Indian guy, your treaty has expired. The Indian guy tells him, well, your lease is up. And that's how I feel. Well, then go home. If you don't want to be here, then go home. And if you want to fight it out, then we'll fight it out. But our argument has to be from Siksika. It has to be from our language, our terms, our knowledge, our understanding, our way of life, our beliefs. That's how we're going to beat them. We're not going to beat them at their own game. They're the ones setting the rules. They're the ones setting the agenda. They're the ones that have the white papers. This is just an extension of that. Don't fall into that.
Now, we can go 30 seconds back onto the timer. We'll return to candidate Crowfoot for rebuttal. You may begin.
What do you mean rebuttal? Sorry, I just respond.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I thought he was asking questions. Yeah, so when we talk about Danielle Smith, we do have to take her seriously. There are some very real threats that she has to bring to the table here. Again, she's moving without consultation when it comes to legislation. She's moving to pass laws that look to curtail our rights. The privatization of healthcare is a direct affront to our treaty rights. And there's discussion about decommissioning hospitals and putting them in third-party hands. So what we need to do is we need to actually strengthen the treaty center leadership table. We need to foster those political time.
We're now going to jump over to candidate Doyle. Ask his question, 30 seconds up on the board. Yes, you will ask your question.
All right, okay. As a candidate, as the chief candidate of the Siksika member, I would like to ask clarity regarding the recent staffing decisions. Many Siksika Nation managers have been released from their positions and replaced with non-member employees. I'm concerned about the impact it has on our community and our members as a whole. More than 60 families have been affected by this. We are increasing the risk and the pressure on the system, with the social systems, when they could be working, they could be thriving under economics. How do we ensure compassion, fairness, and empathy on decisions that have long-term consequences on families?
Thank you. That's a good question.
We can have 2 minutes back up on the board for answer. You may begin.
Okay, the question is talking about how we can look to maintain our seats in the workforce and ensure we have the expertise in these positions of power. We need to first off look at the policies that we have in place. Some of these policies have been put in place for decades. They're colonized. They're not good way. There's nothing in there that is uniquely Siksika. If you take those policies and remove the name Siksika and put any other jurisdiction in there, a lot of times those policies can take effect. That's not what we want in our policies. We need to make sure we have decolonized forms of hiring and retention, but also that are trauma-informed employment practices. We've seen, and I've seen it in my time in on the nation, we've seen people with employment grievances who have asked for L to be present. And in those situations, in those specific environments, that request has been denied because it hasn't been outlined in policy. Our policy needs to reflect who we are as people. Our policies need to be reflective of that. So there needs to be people like our SMU elders group in these dispute resolutions to make sure that we're able to keep them in there. And if there are issues with competency, if there are issues with not proper education, or not having enough experience, then we need to make sure that we foster that. Not a one strike, two strike, three strikes you out, but investing back in the community to retrain them. We know that when non-nation members come, they're not here for a long time. We know that. In fact, oftentimes they come here to benefit from our experience and our name and to make themselves better, and then they move on. That's not true sustainability. And making sure we have those decolonized employment practices are going to be. We also need to make sure that we give our people the right time, the right training to succeed in these positions. We need to make sure that we're service-based. Health services, police services, emergency services. Having people who are strong enough in these roles, the additional services is key, because if the people aren't strong enough in these roles, then there can be a loss of services that affects a lot of people. So investing in that and training that is huge.
So we're going to 30 seconds left on the board. Candidate Royal will have his 30-second rebuttal. You may begin.
I believe in our people. Our people are leaders. We got here from a long list of leaders and people that have brought us to where we are today. So we need our people to come back and help us. For leaders, we are leaders. With respect to some of the AFOA stuff, we are pioneers. The Child Welfare League of Canada, the Indian Taxation Advisory Board, the First Nations Land Management Act, the financial law. We're leaders. People used to look at us, we were all nation members, and that's changed now.
So now, before we proceed here, I do have a question for both of the candidates for the 30-second rebuttal. I'll need agreement from both of you. Would you prefer if your rebuttal was 45 seconds over the 30? I'll need a definitive yes or no from either.
30 seconds.
Thank you. We'll now move into the second question. Candidate Crowfoot will have 30 seconds to ask the question to candidate Royal. You may begin.
Candidate Royal, what political strategies and relationships do you plan on creating and pursuing to make Siksika stronger and improving the quality of life?
We can put up 2 minutes on the board, doesn't it? Candidate Royal, you may begin.
The political strategies, again, I refer back to my initial plan that I've never wavered from. And again, it involves developing governance systems grounded in Siksika and Blackfoot, cultural knowledge and traditional laws. It comes from you people. It comes from all of us. That's how we're going to strengthen each other. That's how we're going to support each other. That's how we're going to build trust. We're going to build unity, inclusion, input, and feedback. And that's how we're not only going to get input and feedback, we're going to use it to educate each other. Not everybody knows our history, our culture, our language, our knowledge. But we're going to use this process that I'm going to take the next 1, 2, 3 years to go out to get your input and feedback. And not only use it as a communications document, secondly, but thirdly, to educate our youth, to educate our members that don't know these things. There's a lot of knowledge out there. There's a lot of ways that we've done things in the past. That's what got us here to where we are. We survived. Again, we survived from those people and that knowledge, which was based on our language, our ceremonies, our songs, and everything that we used to govern, to manage, administer, all of the things that we're doing to run the nation. So, to do that, what I would do is I would take it out and I would use it politically to go around to people and tell us what you think, tell us what you know, tell us how we can support each other, tell us how we understand. Again, I don't know everything, but there's a lot of elders out there, there's a lot of society members out there, there's a lot of nation members out there that know things that we all don't know, and everybody has something to offer. So I would guarantee that by taking the next 1 to 3 years, probably going out and building that system, Siksika, based on who we are, and using our own language, not foreign language, and then using that again and taking it back to a vote so that if you feel like you weren't being heard, then vote no. If you feel like you were heard and it works for you, then vote yes.
Is going to be 30 seconds on for a rebuttal from candidate Crowfoot.
Some key political and economic partnerships that we need to discuss. First and foremost, we know that one of our only voices that we have in Ottawa right now is our member of parliament. How did he vote on that new budget? How did he vote on that budget that cut $2 billion to Indigenous Services Canada all across the nation? How did he vote on that? Who is he? What is his line of thinking? What type of relationship do we have to strengthen with David Bexley? Or what about our MLA and the folks that come onto the reserve line?
30 seconds rebuttal and up.
Can we go to 45 seconds?
We've decided 30 at this point. We'll maintain the 30. We've come this far.
All of this requires like an hour each for a response.
I know they do. That's the beauty of politics. We're having a blast here. We're learning.
Trying to get politics.
So we're going to move into the second round.
Just one more.
One more question. My apologies. I've lost track of my order of the questions.
Who else has one?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Candidate Crowfoot will ask the next question. President, we can have 30 seconds up on the
I
board.
just asked the question.
You just asked the question. Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, I asked something.
This is a curveball in our own, and not having all three of you here. My apologies. Okay, Candidate Royal will lead us off this time. 30 seconds up. You may begin.
Okay, just like some clarification so everybody can hear on this push towards self-government or MOU. There's all kinds of stories that we're hearing. What was the reasoning behind signing that MOU or memorandum of understanding and advancing self-government process without broader community consultation?
Okay, so we put 2 minutes up on the board. Candidate Crowfoot, you may begin.
So that MOU, and I know everybody's talking about MOU in 2021. One of the key defining characteristics is that MOU is unenforceable. So as it stands right now, the signing of that MOU is a dead issue. But the rationale behind it is not. We know, we talked about that $2 billion cut funding. We know that our funding relationship with Ottawa has been stuck in time since 1996, with only a 1 to 2% increase in funding every year. And that's not good enough because our expenses, our program needs are increasing at about 7 to 10% each year. So there's already a built-in discrepancy there. When that MOU was entered into, it was meant to address that relationship to make sure that we get equitable funding that can help us deliver our services. We are a service-based entity. So anything that affects our services, anything that we can do to help improve our services, such as making sure that funding relationship is renegotiated, is key to what we want to do. So when that relationship was ended, it was under the context of making sure that we can increase that. Well, since that time, those discussions have fallen by the wayside. That MOU is just sitting there. It doesn't mean anything anymore because it hasn't been picked up by any party. So when MOUs don't work, and MOUs are the first step in the new relationship, but that's not all there is to it. So when the MOU doesn't work, when it doesn't function the way it needs to do, we need to look at escalating that discussion, escalating the terms of that conversation. If you won't give us the funding formulas that help us understand why you fund us at a low rate that always sets us back before we even have a chance to start our work, we need to know why. So as we move forward, we're going to dive deeper into that and making sure we understand that. These types of issues will come to the people. We will have open dialogue. We will have open consultation with the nation members, especially others, and moving forward. I cannot and I will not do anything that will weaken or make our treaty promises.
There's your time there. Thank you. 30 seconds up on the next one on the board, please. For a rebuttal from candidate Royal, you may begin.
Yes, thank you. These are major decisions that we're talking about that affects all of the community. If it was just an MOU that was a dead deal or dead issue, then why did we sign it to begin with? I don't get it for signing something that's a dead issue. We're wasting our time. So I don't know why we even signed it to begin with, and why it was brought to the attention of the people. It's now just coming out, unfortunately during election time. And I'm not blaming anybody in particular, but this should have been brought to the people. It was a very
We will now return for a question from candidate Crowfoot. 30 seconds on the board. You may begin.
What is your plan on bringing services to officers and members and helping them increase their quality of life for those who live off reserve, which is about roughly over just half of our population live off reserve?
You can repeat the question.
So, what is your plan on bringing services to officer members? And that's a significant population, about over half of our people live off reserve, mostly Calgary, but not just Calgary.
Desmond, if you could put 2 minutes up on the board. And Royal, you may begin.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. I think also that from the demographics that I'm seeing, we have a lot of people off the reserve. Again, we don't have the infrastructure on the reserve to support everything. Our housing rate is growing so fast that we can't keep up with the housing. And the water, and the sewer, and the gas, and the roads, and all the infrastructure that goes along with it. We don't have the hospitals on the infrastructure. We don't have the essential services that's required. So people have no choice to go off the reserve if it's for education, if it's for employment, if it's for health reasons, or other reasons. We need to support those people. We need to have positive reinforcement. Say, hey, you're taking the strain off the system here in Siksika because we don't have enough houses, and so and so needs a house. They're going to get it, but we're going to help you. We have off-reserve programs that we can offer. First-time homebuyers programs that I've been working on, where we give incentives to say, okay, if you go buy a house and you meet these conditions, we'll give you some money to use as a down payment. And if you're going to school and your marks are good, and you're meeting the criteria, okay, well, we're working with a bonus. If your health is being affected, how can we help you out so that you don't have to keep going back to the city, or if you're at the city to make it easier for you. So, to answer the question, I would support them through these and other things. But again, I'm not an expert. I'm one person. I go to those people and ask them, what do you think? What's working? What isn't? How can we help you? Here's what the needs and requirements are. Here's what we're currently offering. There's a gap there. How do we fill that gap? Tell us how we can work towards this together. Because I can say all I want, and then if it doesn't even meet their needs, they need to tell us what to do so that we can develop a strategy, a policy, a framework, a plan to collectively move forward so that we are being effective on how we're dealing with this.
Thank you. We have 30 seconds up on the board for rebuttal. Candidate Crowfoot, you may begin.
In talking with officer members, and I have an officer member, in talking with officer members, some of the things I hear is the basic things that we need is housing and shelter. Housing and shelter is an issue no matter where we go in the country for both nation and non-nation members. I've been part of the Siksika Officer Affordable Housing Project. We're in the process right now of purchasing land in the area as part of the city. It will look to build 60 residential units for nation members there. That's part of the service that we're bringing to. We also need to make sure that people in the city have ways to transport themselves across the city.
That's our 30 seconds. Thank you so much. That concludes our cross-examination Q&A portion of our forum. Before we move on, I do want to take a quick second here for a moment of silence for the late Elder Jerry Blackhorse. Thank you very much. Now, I think one of the hallmarks of leadership and response is being able to answer things on the fly. We did do our best to supply you with everything ahead of time. We have received 3 questions here from attendees. There are written questions. We're going to do 2 minutes for response. I will repeat the question to both of you.
No rebuttals.
No rebuttals will happen for this one. We'll begin with candidate Crowfoot. This one's a long one, so please pay attention. It's going to be perfect. It's already there. The Siksika chief earns approximately $200,000 per year, and each counselor earns about $150,000, probably base salary, not accounting for honorariums. Yet our nation does not have a constitution, does not have self-government, and does not generate major own source revenues through large-scale economic development. Meanwhile, successful nations such as Whitecap Dakota First Nations and Saskatchewan, with economic development and a recognized self-government framework, pays its chief approximately $120,000 and its counselors approximately $80,000. Tsawwassen First Nation in BC, a full treaty and self-governing nation with over $100 million in annual GDP, pays its elected leaders less than Siksika does. Given that Siksika receives the majority of its funding from the federal and provincial transfers and grants, not from economic development, how do you justify Siksika's higher than average leadership salaries? Do you believe salaries should remain at these levels while Siksika still lacks a constitution, lacks self-government, lacks strong economic development, and depends heavily on government funding? And if elected, will you commit to a salary review tied on performance, transparency, and the development of a Siksika constitution?
Yes.
You may begin.
That's a great question. And as respect to salary, throughout my campaign, throughout what I'm talking about here, one of the things I've talked about is developing a constitution. Nations develop constitutions. We need constitutions. Our treaties are important, but we need that additional strength in the constitution to help set that forward. Whitecap Dakota does have a constitution. I've talked to him. I've talked to Chief Garcia. I visited his territory, and I've seen the things that they're able to do. And they're not doing a lot of things different than us. They have included Boone's Resort, and they're including a Nordic spa. We have Kananaskis Pomeroy, where 30% owners in a world-class resort that also has that same kind of Nordic spa. We are 95% owners of the Westin Airport Westin Hotel. That's a huge economic boom for the nation. That's a good thing. We were able to settle the largest land claim settlement in Canadian history. That's a good thing. These salaries that we have are reflective of the industry that we're in. And it's not just chief and council salaries. We've been looking to upgrade everybody's salary as we're able to develop cost of living adjustments to make sure our salaries are good. Because this is what happens when you don't have competitive salaries. You experience a brain drain. People leave the nation for other better paying jobs where they're treated better and differently. When we see those high salaries, and competitive salaries, if someone says, take it down, they're telling you they're not worth that amount. See that salary, I think, how can I rise to that level? How can I make sure that I'm worth that and more? That's what I want. That's the difference between a lion and a lamb. Is when we say those things, we need to say, how can I justify that and let the people know that they're getting a strong return on their investment? And it's not just leadership, it's senior managers as well. We need to make sure that we have proper salaries across the nation for our peace officers, for our first responders, for our teachers, and for our social workers, because they're on the front lines. I will always create transparency, I always have. We have a financial administration law that sometimes we circumvent. So we have these good.
There are 2 minutes. Thank you. And there are 3 questions. Once again, it's a long one, so please pay attention. Siksika chief earns approximately $200,000 per year, and each counselor earns $150,000, probably base salary, not accounting for honorariums, etc. But our nation does not have a constitution, does not have self-government, and does not generate major own source revenues through large-scale economic development. Meanwhile, successful nations such as Whitecap Dakota First Nation in Saskatchewan, with strong economic development and a recognized self-government framework, pays its chief approximately $120,000 and its counselors approximately $80,000. And Tsawwassen First Nation in BC, a full treaty and self-governing nation with over $100 million in annual GDP, pays its elected officials less than Siksika does. Given that Siksika receives the majority of its funding from a federal and provincial transfer and grants, not from economic development, has higher than average leadership salaries. Do you believe salaries should remain at these levels while Siksika still lacks a constitution, lacks self-government, lacks strong economic development, and depends on government funding? And if elected, will you commit to a salary review tied to performance, transparency to the development of the Siksika Constitution. Candidate Royal, you may begin.
Thank you. Well, I can't justify the salary myself, so I don't know what we're comparing it to, but I understand the question that if we're looking at other jurisdictions, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to municipalities, cities, towns, etc., or corporations or industry. We're Siksika Nation. And again, I think that a lot of this is a lot of these people that are getting these salaries are not from here. And I understand it from what they're saying is that there's a gap in the capacity of our people. Well, then if there is, then we should be looking at a succession plan, a training plan, a transition plan to bring our people back in so they can enjoy those salaries. I understand fairness and equity, I'm all for it. But again, if it's fairness and equity for people that aren't even from here, they don't have the same values, they don't have the same beliefs, they don't have the same understanding, they have different ways of doing things. And who are we really rewarding? We're rewarding outside people that are running the nation. And our people are being replaced that enjoying these salaries. So I don't know how the justification is. I would set up a competitive salary scale system. It would be across the board. We would look at other jurisdictions similar to Siksika Nation, like other First Nations, like White Cap or others that was mentioned here earlier. But look at what they're doing, then look at what we're doing, and be fair about it. And have the data and science to back it up. And then furthermore, on the question with will I take salary? I've proven that too. There was a chief way back when one of his platforms was that if he gets on, he was going to take a 10% cut of salary. As far as I know at the time, I was the only manager that ever took that cut. Because when I went around after a few months later, I asked other managers, "Can you take a cut?" I voluntarily took a cut because he wanted everybody to. But unfortunately, for me, I was the only one that took a cut, so I'm prepared to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move into our second question. 2 minutes is up on the board. We'll begin with Candidate Royal this time. What do you think about the creation of the Siksika Nation Constitution, and do you support its creation? And what commitments will you make to ensure it's developed openly, guided by natural law, and approved directly by the people through referendum? You may begin.
Thank you. I go back to my brochure again. I know it's just a piece of paper, it's small like that. It's a lot of information that you can't just explain in one little city, let alone 2 minutes. However, what I would say is that we have to start with ourselves. We can't start with new terms, language, systems, foreign ways of doing things. We have to use our Siksika ways, our knowledge, our history, our ceremonies, our songs, our traditions, our values, our way of life. And that starts with language. Let's not use their terminology. Constitution is a not good terminology. So I've consulted with former leaders, former chiefs, elders, people. I've worked with probably 20 different chiefs over my lifetime, and they say that this is the way we would say it. It might change once we go to the people. We might use a different terminology, but Siksika is to develop a governance systems that are grounded in Siksika Latin culture, knowledge, and traditional laws. That's what we should use. There are other terms and language that we use to describe how we're going to implement those laws and how they're going to work for governance, for management, for leadership, for chief and council. That's going to go up to the people. Again, we're going to use it to get their input and feedback, and they're going to help us all put it together. And we're also going to use it to communicate with people on what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. And we're also going to use it to educate people and say, hey, did you know this is how we've done things? Did you know this is our language? Did you know this clan? You came from this sub-band, this area. Did you know we governed ourselves before? Did you know that these are foreign concepts to us that we're trying to follow? We're arguing with them in their own forums that they've developed. And how I'm going to ensure that, as I said at the beginning, I'm going to take it to a referendum. And if you feel like you weren't a part of that, you didn't get anything out of it, then you'll vote not in favor. If you are, hopefully you will. Then we'll follow that for the rest of the time.
Now, repeating the question for candidate Crowfoot. What do you think about the creation of the Siksika Nation Constitution, and do you support its creation? And what commitments will you make to ensure it is developed openly, guided by natural law, and approved directly by the people through referendum. You may begin.
Yes, 100%. I support the creation of the Constitution. And I think it's probably one of the most important things that we can do when it comes to our long-term survival. We know that our trees are losing power through modern day inflation and expansion of municipalities. I talked about that in my brochure there. It's in the end report, the annuities litigation and the loss of land litigation that we're finding there. So the Constitution will be meant to shore up and solidify our treaty rights and obligations. I can commit to developing that. What that exact Constitution looks like, I don't know, because we need to solicit opinions from the people. We need to solicit what you want to have in that Constitution. A Constitution must be a document that comes from the people. It has to be. Because it's going to govern not just us now, but us in the future. So it needs to have our culture first and foremost at the front. But there's a balance act here. Not only do we have to have a Constitution that's reflective of our abilities and reflects our tradition and history, but it also has to allow us to exist in the world that's coming. It has to allow us to have a compatibility with the systems already in place. A case in point, one of the key defining characteristics of a nation are branches of power: executive, legislative, judicial. We have an executive, that's the chief. We have a legislative, that's council. But we don't have a judicial system right now. We know that there are traditional courts, natural law courts, indigenous courts in Canada. They issue decisions that the rest of the world will give full faith and credit to. That is something impossible for us. We've seen that in Ottawa. They have their own court system there. They have their own means of government. And in fact, the Constitution, that is the model of the Constitution that we're familiar with right now, is an indigenous concept. This is an open part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. We look at these indigenous governing characteristics across the nation, across the world. We pull from that and we use that today as our Constitution.
2 minutes. We'll now move into our third and final question, supplied by our attendees. We'll begin with candidate Crowfoot. The question is, there's been a lot of talk online regarding the signing of the MOU with the Government of Canada in 2021. There has been a notice of termination for this, but how do you plan to address self-determination in Canada, and how will you keep people informed? You may begin.
Can you just ask that? I'm sorry.
Yes. There has been a lot of talk online regarding the signing of the MOU with the Government of Canada in 2021. There has been a notice of termination for this, but how do you plan to address self-determination in Canada, and how will you keep people informed? You may begin.
So the people need to know what the government is. The government should be communicating what we're doing. In this case, Chief Council. I do support self-determination and having the conversations with Canada. And we're already kind of doing that. The MOU from back in 2021, which hasn't been any traction, was a good step in that right direction. Open discussions about the transfer, the funding, which I talked about before. That's going to be a key issue moving forward. That's something we're looking at here. Something that we've all talked about, we can all agree on that. If you don't have true sovereignty, you don't have true self-determination unless you can be economically self-sufficient. Addressing that funding relationship is going to be part of that. But also reminding Alberta and talking to Alberta that we're here this night as well, and any decisions that they make must also be consulted with us. I definitely support the idea of self-determination. I definitely support the idea of us taking back our power and our control, and we've already seen that. We've already seen that through the creation of these bylaws, through the creation of the prosecutor's office, that are now keeping their community safe. Before, if somebody committed some type of civil infraction on reserve, who would we go to make sure that those laws are held in court? We had nobody to go to. We've had the ability to create laws since the 1950s, even before then, but we've never been able to enforce it until now. That self-determination, that self-government is key when we have the right people in place who understand how governments are supposed to work, who understands not only our people, but understands the not the world out there, and be able to move and navigate their world, their systems, because that's part of our obstacles moving forward. So, with respect to that and of keeping the people informed, I've talked about that. Open band meetings, monthly meetings with the elders of the youth, making sure that we have written updates to the community, and that we can bring it in the communication. You're going to see a referendum about the Constitution. You're going to see a referendum on Bill C-92, where we take back the jurisdiction over our children. And before we get to that referendum, we will be related to the community.
Now direct the question to candidate Royal. There's been a lot of talk online regarding the signing of the MOU with the Government of Canada in 2021. There has been a notice of termination for this. But how do you plan to address self-determination in Canada, and how will you keep people informed? You may begin.
Well, I plan to address self-determination with the people. Again, it starts with the people. We were hearing that this hasn't picked up any traction since 2001. So obviously we're wasting our time, or something's not working. I don't know what it is. We signed in for whatever reason, but I would review it. To be fair, I would review it. And I would look at, okay, is this working? But again, I would take a non-paternalistic approach and I would come to all of you and say, this is what we're going to look at. And again, I go back to my Siksika one. I keep harping on this, but this is the key to everything. It's to go back to you and say, how are we going to run things? How are we going to manage things? How are we going to cover things? How are we going to move forward? How are we going to ensure that all of these things that are knowledge, ways of life, language are protected, and that we're using them and modernizing them to develop our laws, our policies, our programs, our services, our delivery of the whole nation, our governance systems. So I would take it back to the people and develop a success sovereignty framework in addition to that upholds our treaty. Again, it was a peace treaty. We weren't conquered. We didn't agree to be a part of the Confederacy. So why are we signing an MOU? Is my question. So we need to go back, and I need to go back and review it. We do need to protect our rights. We have all kinds of rights, but this isn't the only treaty. We have the Rainbow, Laramie, Jade Treaty. There's 20 different treaties that I know of that we were a part of. This is one of them. We need to start from the beginning and say, this is who we are. This is how we manage things. This is how we govern things. This is what we were told by the people. This is how we're going to operate things. And it's going to go back to you, and it's going to go for a vote again. But it has to start from Siksika and Siksika, using our terms, our knowledge, our language, and our ways of life.
I want to thank the candidates for handling these questions. Cole, the candidates were not provided with these questions ahead of time. Always a challenge. That is the hallmark of leadership. Coming up, we'll be moving into our closing commitments, closing comments. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds or 90 seconds to provide either 2 concrete commitments if elected chief, or a final closing statement. Or all 3. 90 seconds isn't a lot of time. It's up to you. The order that we're going to go with for this is we will begin with candidate Royal, follow with candidate Sam. Perfect. We've got 1:30 up on the clock. Candidate Royal, are you prepared?
Yes.
You may begin.
Okay, thank you. Again, it's hard to explain all of this in one sitting. We're trying to explain a whole way of life, how we modernize it and use it to bring us all forward collectively. With your input, your feedback, your knowledge, and your ways to be verified through you to a referendum. That's the goal, to ensure that no one gets left behind. I've dedicated my life to Siksika and helping us with different people. I've worked here most of my life. I've worked with the Confederacy and other agencies that support Siksika. My education came from dedicating my life work to Siksika people. I was guided by a number of elders that are no longer here. And some of you know that we worked at Black Cross and I'm Pretty Man, Leo, Russell and Julia Wright, Mike Davey, Mrs. Teresa, Mrs. Worthy, people like Clement Doris, the four founders of the administration. I remember stories when the first administration started. So I want to bring that back. We have a lot of strength, and I want to make sure that people are involved. And there's a lot of other people, some of you are in this room that have contributed to that. So if you want open communication, you want accountability, you want transparency, and a strong Siksika voice, then vote Jack Royal on November 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Royal. Candidate Crowfoot, are you prepared?
Yup.
You may begin.
So, he's asking for two concrete examples of things that I can do. I'm going to say here for everybody here that goes online, open mandates are coming back. That's a key part of the governance process, to be able to hear in real time the concerns and even frustrations of the people. Open mandates are coming back. I've already talked to the executive assistants, we're already. The second thing is going to be the elders consultation. We will have monthly meetings with the elders, and we will look to incorporate them in a formal setting with respect to our decision in council. The third concrete commitment I can make, that I've already shown a lot of progress on, is this: to continue to bring our treaty rights forward to today. Our treaty rights that we discussed in 1877. We know that creating new treaty rights is hard, but strengthening it, making it more relevant today, I can commit to doing that. We've already done that. That $5 a year litigation to make it more current is happening now. Compensation for lawsuits for treaty lands is happening now. Protecting you in the hospitals because you're discriminated against because you're First Nations is happening now. These are all things that we've created. Our nation is stronger now because of my time on council and the work I've had with all my team, my members of council who helped me in these endeavors. It's all happening now. This Buffalo moves forward for a reason. We need to ensure our survival in the future, but also by holding on to the cultural identity.
Once over, I really want to thank the candidates for making out to our event. This is really an aggressive display of politics to be able to put in front of the people, to be able to come before us with this level of transparency for the people that came, for the people on our live stream. 37 people have been attending on our live stream this entire time. 37 people have stayed with us for just shy of 2 hours. They're sitting in their houses. I don't know what they're doing. So I want to thank every single one of you who joined us. Before anybody leaves, we have 11 door prizes left to do, including a 43-inch TV. So please do stick around unless you have enough TVs. But we'll do this thing, all right? Thank you again. There we go. Can somebody else do